Hi, I'm Susan Dixon, the current president of the Chinese Historical Society tonight. I want to welcome everybody, members and non-members alike. I recognize quite a few of these names tonight. Everybody has a website. We wanted to reflect our mission, which is about researching, recording, and making Chinese American history available to the public. Almost 15 years ago, Fenton Ng had started our website, and we didn't change it significantly for a long time. Then 3 years ago, we had a $25,000 donation to start a media center. And so that started pushing us another way. Our first step was when our tonight's host, Felicia Tabing, helped by streamlining our website. But because of new changes, we had the UC Riverside had a class that did online exhibits about Chinese American history. We got funded by the Louis Family Foundation for an online exhibit about Tyrus Wong and Y.C. Hong. So we needed to make some changes. So a year ago, we started putting together concepts, and our current vice president, Ricky Leo, has put together with input from a lot of people, our new website, which we're going to show tonight. The challenge with the new any new website is making it relevant, educational, informative, and interesting. So tonight's speakers are going to help us discover what we don't know about the Chinese Historical Society's history, about what's in our archives, even Chinese American history. So I'm going to pass this over to Corinne Hardison, who has been our collection manager since the summer. She oversees the CHSSC archives, our physical library, and our digital library. We first met her when she was our intern through the Andrew Mellon Foundation. Her BA was in history from UCI. And yesterday I was hearing that she also has her MLIS. So Corinne, you're on.
Okay, thank you so much, Susan, for that introduction. My name is Corinne Hardison. I am the current collections manager here at CHSSC. And tonight, my colleagues and I are going to talk about some of the ways that we've tried to make our collections, our materials, and the mission of our society more accessible to a wider audience. More specifically, some of the main digital initiatives that we have taken to make everything more accessible to others. So I am going to share my screen so that I can share my slides with you. Okay, I hope everyone can see that okay. So let's begin. As I mentioned, we're going to talk mainly about the main digital initiatives that we have been taking these past few months. I am presenting tonight with Anna Lavares, David Castro, and Amanda Galvez. So to give a basic idea of what exactly we're going to be talking about tonight, I'm first going to give an overview of some of our digital initiatives, what they are, why they're important, and then we're going to move to a tour that I'm going to give of our new website, which has been amazingly redesigned. After that, I'm going to turn it over to Anne, who is going to show us our online library catalog through a site called LibIb. And after that, she is going to turn it over to David and Amanda, who are both going to show us some of the exhibits that they've been working on our new digital archive on Omeka. So before we talk about exactly what these digital initiatives are, I thought it would be important to first reiterate why exactly it's important for us to have these initiatives on a digital scale. So part of CHSSC's mission is to pursue, preserve, and communicate knowledge of Chinese American history. And focusing on the points of preserving and communicating, having more of an online presence is extremely important to advancing those goals. So firstly, we get to preserve all of our information in a new, exciting way by using digital platforms, being able to put up online exhibits, putting some of our photographs and documents up online allows us to not only have a backup of those documents available online because physical objects are going to degrade over time. So it's good to have that in a digital form, but also people get to see these objects through a new context. We get to do a lot of things through online exhibits that we might not be able to do physically or in person. So this online presence helps us to communicate histories on a global scale. So you can be able to access our exhibits, some of our archives, catalog of all our books, all from the comfort of your own computer. So for those who cannot travel to LA or who cannot visit our physical Chinatown Heritage Center for any reason, are still able to have a degree of access to the collections that we have and learn more about the histories that we've been collecting. So here's a list of the main digital initiatives that we're going to talk about tonight. So firstly, we have our new website, which allows you to see the publications that we've created, the events, both past and present that we've been doing, and pretty much all of the work that we've done these past few decades. Second, we have a new catalog to help with our library management. So the collections of books that we have in our CHSSC library, we're now able to keep track of. And also you will be able to see what books we have from your computer. And lastly, we have our digital archives. So we've been able to scan some of our documents, some of our photographic collections, and put them up online so that you can be able to scroll through them, see some collections, and not have to visit our physical archives to be able to have access to some of these. So let's first talk about our new website, which, as Susan brought up, was very wonderfully redesigned by Ricky Leo. So thank you, Ricky, for all of the work you've been doing for this website. So our website has a lot of new and exciting changes since it has been relaunched. As you can see on the right, this is what the new homepage looks like. It's an entirely new look. There's a slideshow of pictures from our collections that you could see on the top. As you can see on the bottom half, you can access some things really quickly, like our monthly programs, our YouTube channel, some of our publications. But also, if you look on the top banner, you can kind of see where we are able to store everything about us. So we have about us, our outreach, our work, our online exhibits, and how you can get involved with CHSSC. So I'm going to go a little bit more in detail once we actually do a tour of the new website, but just to get an overview of what exactly is there. Our About Us page talks about CHSSC's mission, how we've developed as a historical society, and who exactly we are. If you look at outreach, you'll be able to find some of our events and activities, both upcoming, as well as access our YouTube channel, which has recordings of some of our past meetings. If you look at our work, it has a ton of stuff that we've done before. We have all our research, our preservation work that we've done, some of our notable archival collections, and some of our published works, including our journals. Online exhibits, that's a bit self-explanatory, but through that tab, you'll be able to see some of the exhibits that interns and staff alike have created and have put up on our website that look beautiful. And lastly, get involved. You can learn how to become a member with us, how to intern or volunteer or work with us, and how you can donate to help advance more of these initiatives with our society. So next, we have our new library management system, which is on a site called Libib. And basically what Libib does, it allows you to keep track of all of the books that you have. And this isn't just for us too. You can also do this for your own home library. So what we've done is we've been able to keep track of all of the donations that we've been getting, because we've especially gotten a lot of donations of books, and we need to keep track of things like which books do we already have, which editions do we have, all things like that that we're now able to do through one site on LIBIB. So what LIBIB is basically an online library catalog that not only allows us to keep track of that, but also allows possible patrons to go on that website, take a look at all of our books, and see if they're interested in anything. So you can look through a list of all of the books that we have. We've been starting to categorize them, so you can search by category if you would like. And if you're interested in a certain book, you can learn more about it just by clicking on it and then reading a bit more about the information. And if you're interested in a book, you can feel free to reach out to us and contact us, and we can organize maybe a visit so you would be able to see the book in person for yourself. So at this point, you can actually find our LIBIB on our website through the library catalog button, which you'll be able to see once we start going through a tour of our website and LIBIB. So you can find out how to look through our library catalog yourself. And lastly, we have our digital archives. So this has been an initiative that we have been working on to put some of our collections online. So we've been scanning a lot of our photographic collections and some of our document-based collections and putting them up on our server so that we can upload them onto a management system called Omeka or Omeka. You're going to hear it pronounced both ways. So what exactly is Omeka? So it is a system that basically manages our digital content. So the content that we have scanned or digitized in some way so that we can put it up online for other people to see. And some institutions use it in different ways. Some of them use it mainly for online exhibits, but at this point, we're mainly focusing on using it as an online repository for our archive. So focusing as basically like an archive, but in an online form. So getting our collections up on there so that people can be able to see them. So how exactly do we use it? So the first thing we do is upload items for our collection. So that involves mainly a lot of scanning and putting it up on the site. And then after that, we add metadata to items. So let's say we have a photograph that we want to put online. We would add information like where it was taken, when it was taken, who's in the photograph, things like that, that researchers might want to know about a certain material that we have in our collection. After that, we create pages for each collection. So instead of having to view each individual item, you can see them all grouped together within their respective collections. And you can even learn more about each collection through a description page that we would have. So right now we're still in the beginning phases, so we just have a few collections up, but we're really hoping that we can expand this initiative and get as many collections up there as possible so that people would be able to see them. And like LIBIB, Omeka will also be accessible through our website if you click on the digital archives button. So that is basically an overview of what we have for our digital initiatives. Thank you for listening. And from here, I am going to take you on a tour first of our website before turning it over to Anne for LIBIB. So I'm going to exit here. So this is what our new website looks like. And I'm going to only highlight a few of the many amazing things that we have up here. So I very much encourage you to visit the website on your own. If you go to chssc.org, play around, look at all of the stuff we have because it really is amazing. So let's bounce through some of what we have here. So starting with About Us, if you want to learn more about CHSSC, our mission and our history, you can just click on here and you get to learn more about what exactly we're aiming to do with the society, what our goals are. And what I find really amazing is we now have this timeline here of our entire history, a lot of the initiatives that we've taken. I'm just going to go scroll through here, but I very much encourage you to take a look for yourself to see in more detail. But this is an amazing feature that we have added. So going back up to the top here, we have our outreach. So this is where we include events, walking tours, regular dinner programs. And what's also interesting is that we have a link to our YouTube channel now. So if you just click here, there we go. It immediately takes you to our YouTube channel and you can see all of the recordings that we've had for past meetings. In case you missed one, you can check it out for yourself through our YouTube channel. So going back, if you look at our work, this is where we really have a lot of the initiatives that we've taken in the past. So you can see our research, the preservation initiatives that we've taken, a lot of our notable archival collections, and some of our publications. So for example, you can take a look at our website for the Gumsong Journal. And this is pretty much where you can access a vast majority of the Gumsong journals that we've created in the past. So what's interesting about this, you could also see the documents for some of the journals and how they look compared to then versus now. So for example, let's take a look at this volume from 1979. And if you download the PDF, you can see exactly how it was formatted. So you can read through these, and then if you look at, let's say, an example of a journal from 2017, you could do the same thing, download the PDF. And what's cool is that you could also see maybe how the format's changed over the years, as well as the content too. So I very much would recommend taking a look at this if you have time. And then let's go all the way back to the website. So we also have some of our online exhibits up here. One that I find particularly interesting is our online exhibit for Chinatown Remembered. So what's great about this is that this project isn't just shown as a wall of text, but you also get to interact with the site and see what you might want to look at. So if you're interested in youth activities or World at War, you can learn more about each category and explore as you see fit. And it's not just textual information that's up here. We also have audio and we have photographs. So for example, if we look here at the community members, you can see a list with their photographs. So let's take a look, for example, at Ben Fong. So if you click on a community member, you'll be able to learn more about them. You have a biography of them, and you can also listen to the transcript, or you can listen to the audio of their interview, as well as read along with the transcript. So you get to do a lot of dynamic interactions through this online exhibit that you probably wouldn't be able to do in person. So it's great to have all these different formats. And lastly, if you take a look at our Get Involved, again, you can figure out how to become a member, how to volunteer and intern with us. Let's take a look at our 2022 summer internship page, for example, since the deadline for this is in a couple weeks. So you can see this is some information about the internship itself, an overview of who you'll be working with, you know, things like how long you'll be working, when the applications are due. And if you want to learn more, then you can just click to view the application and see the document for yourself. So what we've really tried to emphasize with this website is being able to access it not just on your own terms from your own computer, but also to look at some of our histories in new and dynamic ways. So being able to access different forms of media, being able to see different formats of how we display our work. That's something that we really try to emphasize so that people who are interested in our histories can have a really fun time or an interesting time looking through them, being able to interact with them, having maybe a new way of looking at some of these histories, even if they already know about them. So that's something that I really find interesting about this website. And again, thank you to Ricky for making it look so amazing with this redesign. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And now I am going to turn it over to one of our archival interns from UCLA, from the Andrew W. Mellon program, Anne.
Hi, everybody. As Corinne said, I'm Anne. I'm also from that Andrew W. Mellon Foundation that funded UCLA, just as Corinne was in her previous year. I will be finishing my MLIS this June, so I'm almost done, almost to the point where Corinne is. I have been with CHSSC since fall, and I will be with them through the summer. So it's an entire year internship, which is very helpful to begin and hopefully complete some projects with CHSSC. So as Corinne mentioned, one of the projects I've been involved in is the library, one of many projects, as the CHSSC archives have many projects in the works. So with LIBIB, over the last couple of years at least, things have been added to LIBIB by volunteers and a prior staff member. So it's been an effort that's been ongoing. While I was there at CHSSC within the first few weeks, I began to start physically organizing the library, while then involved with some of the work of adding things to LIBIB and making sure that duplicates were looked at through LIBIB. So that's the other thing that's really useful about it, is we can see what we have. Not only we can see it, but of course you can see it now. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I want to make sure it's really clear how to access LIBIB. So let me go ahead and share my screen. This is what LIBIB looks back, but I'm going to go ahead and go to the website. So when you're on our website and you go to our work, there's a section that Corinne mentioned called collections. This link here, library catalog, goes right to LIBIB. And then as you can see right away, you can start to see what some of the books are available on there. So if you scroll through, you can just literally scroll through by category. So I went ahead and highlighted Chinese American history as the main category, but there are several books in other categories as well. One thing I want to make sure that you see is that several of the books have as of yet been uncategorized. And this is because the effort to add the books to LIBIB has been a huge part of it. And now we are going to start categorizing them as well. Something I want to say about that as well is that in our buildings, there are so many books. And I think at this point, we've estimated over 1,000 for sure. It looks like on LIBIB, there's probably about 1,800 books that have been added. We are still acquiring more books. So we got a large donation in the past year that we're in the process of getting up and figuring out what's duplicates, what's available. And I also wanted to make sure I highlight that if you see something on our LIBIB catalog, that you reach out to us, which Corinne mentioned as well. So reach out to us if you want to get access to something. There is an ongoing effort to clean up not only the LIBIB page, but also categorize everything here. And eventually, these items will also be in our buildings categorized in a similar way. So it'll be really easy to figure out where they live in the physical building. But again, this is an ongoing project, but it's really incredible. The work has been done so far. You can see just how many books are in uncategorized at this moment and eventually will be categorized. But once again, it's an ongoing effort. Books are constantly coming into our building. There's a large amount of books that live there, and we have duplicates of many of them that we're working through. And it's an incredible effort. The collection that is housed at CHSSC of books includes lots of research material, many of which are rare books, which is really incredible to know. So if you are like a researcher of a specific topic related to Chinese American history or Asian American history of any kind, take a look at our catalog. It's a really incredible resource. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to David to talk a little bit about Omeka.
Cool. Thank you, Anne. Hi, everyone. My name is David. I'm currently a second-year MLIS candidate at San Jose State University, and I've been working for quite a while with the Chinese Historical Society, and it's been a real big honor of being able to continue my effort with them. Currently, most of my effort revolves around working on the Omeka site and populating the site itself with a multitude of items that will be digitally preserved and presented to the greater audience itself. This itself is our opening welcoming page of the Omeka site. As you can see here, we have like a brief little description that our interns are hurriedly at work, making the site and improving the site for everybody. From the welcoming site itself, you would have to click on the digital collections tab on the top left, and then you'll be presented with a quick rundown of the collections that we have to present. Duty and Honor is the one of the collections I was primarily working on, and it's in a sense a digital preservation of a grand project to preserve the many wonderful stories of World War II veterans, primarily from the Los Angeles region. The project itself, as you can see under the Legacy of the Duty and Honor Project, began back in 1994, and through a series of efforts by Marjorie Lee, a prominent member of the society, the Duty and Honor Project itself was created. There was a very prominent dinner back in '94 that really spurred the objective for the mission for this project. As you can see here, there were a couple of veterans that were celebrated for the 50th anniversary of World War II in 1994. And then from there, Marjorie Lee had set up a grand project again to record the many memories and resources that were gathered from these veterans itself. In a sense, we gathered these resources and then we began the process of digitally preserving them. Some of the resources you will see would include headshots of all of the veterans that were presented in the book itself. At the moment, we're working on preserving over 390 images of all of the veterans from, again, Chinese American veterans from the Southern California region, preserving their images along with descriptions in detail as to what area of the war they were involved in and so on. The list goes on and on from here. To give you a brief look of what description looks like on Omeka, we'll take a look at Tom Amer's item itself. So you can see here, you'll be met with title, multitude of description topics from title to description itself, showcasing what branch of the military goes in and so on, medals and commendations and so forth, as well as institutional description from the type of image this is to who specifically holds rights to this image itself. It's a cool rundown of what we have to offer, I believe. The next set of, go to the very bottom, the next set of digital items that we intend to preserve would be the audio recorded tapes that our veterans had given to Marjorie Lee and her team back in the 90s. As you can see here, we still have a multitude of others that we intend to upload as well. So you can see here, we kind of dig down on the metadata description and whatnot. And I kind of wanted to briefly play a interview of Albert Chang to kind of give you a sense of what you may listen to once you search our database real quickly.
David, we're unable to hear the audio.
Oh, my bad. I guess I'll move on to the next segment of my presentation here.
You need to share sound. There's a button for sharing the sound, and then we'd be able to hear it.
Okay. I don't believe I know how to do that.
I think, David, if you unshare and then reshare, you'll see the option before you click to share the screen.
Found it. Thank you.
Induction was in, oh, I know what. I was inducted in Fresno on February 24th, 1943, and then on March 3rd, 1943, I reported for active duty at Presidio, Monterey. And from there, they shipped me to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for basic training. So actually, I had 2 tours of duty overseas. I spent less than a year in from 1943 to sometime in 1944 in the Aleutian Islands. And we returned stateside for a few months, and then probably early in 1945, we started heading for Okinawa.
You mentioned that
I'm gonna end it right there, but basically he tells about his adventures overseas in the Aleutian Islands as well as Okinawa, being an engineer and building airstrips for the island hopping adventure that would then take place from Okinawa once they would reach Japan, and the ensuing events that follow with the dropping of the bombs and whatnot. a lot of these interviews were segmented in terms of talking about the home front and in terms of talking about veteran experiences in World War II and their livelihoods after the war. And it definitely is and definitely was my favorite part of this project so far. In terms of moving forward from the duty and honor project, I'm going to show you a brief illustration of our Fritz collection. This in itself is the back end of our website, but let me go ahead and get back on track here. The Fritz family collection itself showcases a multitude of images to ephemera from the Fritz family, which holds a dear place in the society's heart. As you can see here, I segmented their story in terms of immigration, in terms of life in the United States, and focusing in on a particular person. The immigration story itself, I would say the French family legacy begins in Alsace, a region in France back in 1819 when the family patriarch Henry George Fritz was born in, well, yeah, of course, 1819. He then married Elizabeth Catherine Fritz in 1840, and he had a multitude of sons, but one son in particular was Philip W. Fritz, who then immigrated to America. In France, he married Louise Schaffner, as you can see here. We have a portrait of her, and had 3 kids with her, Philip, George, and Fred. As you can see here, we have another cool image of them. I believe this portrait was taken in 1904, Philip, George, and Fred. And of course, this is Philip Fritz Sr. here himself, standing, I believe, in front of 1415 Bernard Street. As you go in through the collection illustration itself, you can read more about their immigration to America and how Philip eventually got a hold of the Bernard Street lot. Moving a bit further, we explore how Fred, George, and Philip live their lives in the United States. As you can see here, Fred Fritz at one point was an engineer for the Southern Pacific Railroad. He is the centered person right here working on this rail. I'm not sure exactly where in Los Angeles this is located, but I think it's really a really cool image that shows you, the time of the era and whatnot. Moving a bit further, we focus in on Louise B. Fritz, who I would argue is the matriarch of the family in the United States. Her story can then be explored on the next section of the exhibition. As you can see here, we have report cards listing her grades for the 1906 school year. She herself is having a wonderful time with her dog in the front porch here. This image herself, she's with her best friend, Mary Frost. And then the accompanying images show her with her 3 husbands. And the details talk a little bit more about her experiences and ultimately leading to her passing away in 1992. That's really all I have to show. And I'd like to pass it on to Amanda for now.
Thank you, David. I'll let you unshare your screen. Okay, great. Thank you, David. That was great. Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda Galvez. I'm one of the archives interns here at the Historical Society. I'm currently pursuing my MLIS from San Jose State University's remote program, and I've been with the Society since last fall. It has been a great time. We have a lot of brainstorm sessions. We're constantly learning from one another, learning from the community, obviously, as well. And more importantly, we do really purposeful work, which I'm really honored to be a part of. So going off of David's presentation, I will also be exploring Omeka. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so here we are at our new website. So one of the ways that you can access the Omeka and online exhibits is through this button right here of our digital archives. And then you'll click this first link right here, and this takes us to the same page that David was presenting from. So on the tab here, digital collections, you can see all of our online exhibits. I have been working on the Lem K collection and his letters, as well as the Susan G. Dixon collection. To start, I'm going to click here, the Lem K collection. And just to give a little overview, I'm going to scroll down so you can see. And one of the great things about this platform is the usability and I guess the way that we can use so many mediums and media to express a story. So a lot of the collections that we have follow specific people, specific events and places. And with all of these different media, we are able to really visually and interactively bring the user and potential patrons just great access to these things. So going back to the top here, this is the Lem K collection. So Lem K left Hong Kong at age 21 to come to the United States, where he eventually worked as a farmhand for Lucky Baldwin at the Baldwin Ranch, which is now in Arcadia at the LA Arboretum property site. Currently at the Arboretum, they house his collection of personal artifacts, as well as a series of detailed letters. The Historical Society has collaborated with the Arboretum and is translating those letters. So down here, we have a few examples of the translations. And these are really important because we get a sense of the humanity being expressed here. Some of the transcripts tell us about the hardships and kind of harsh realities back home in China at the mainland between Lem K and his family. And we can see how these emotions and different memories are communicated to one another and how they translate across time. This really aligns with our mission of preserving materials and spreading knowledge as well. And let me see here, getting to our notes. Yeah, again, just kind of explains his livelihood. So at the top here, I really want to give a highlight to these images. This one in particular, and also this one. These two graphics were created by one of the UC Riverside interns, Shauna Ho. She created a series of social media graphics, two of which are displayed here, that gives a nice visual aid with photographs and some newspaper clippings, as well as some main facts about Lem K. So we can just take a look at those. Included here is also a brief biography of Lem K. Like I said, he worked at the Lucky Baldwin Ranch, primarily in the vineyards with the grapes. And he also had a brother, George K. And down here, we have a little bit more about the collection housed and owned at the Arboretum. And lastly, some of the letters. This is an ongoing project, so not all of the letters are included here, just a few, and we are working hard, I'm working hard to get all of the letters up here to eventually have a full exhibit of them. And lastly, here are some of the references for that. In addition to this, I've also been working on the Susan G. Dixon collection, primarily sorting through the collection and developing a finding aid that will go on the Online Archive of California and also on our website as well, and also an Omeka exhibit. And I do want to read a brief introduction about that collection and its significance and importance not only to the society, but to the Chinese community as a whole. So in 2005, MTA unearthed the Potter's Cemetery when widening the street during gold line construction in East LA. This portion of the cemetery contained 118 graves. A fourth of the grave sites were determined to be Chinese. The Susan G. Dixon collection contains MTA community meeting materials, newspaper articles, photographs, video, and 4 years of email correspondence. These emails reveal the discussion within the Chinese community of what to do with the artifacts and the remains. Once the MTA committee determined that everything was to be reburied, the emails detail the decision-making process of choosing a section in Evergreen Cemetery, choosing the wording of the memorial wall and the historic plaque, choosing the fonts for the memorial wall, and choosing the wording for the grave markers for the Chinese reburials. Again, this is really important to the community to honor their ancestors, as well as to gain an insight as to kind of the social justice movement that happened because of this event. And we're planning to include in the Omeka exhibit photographs, some video of some interviews, as well as all the grave marker inscriptions, which we do actually have on our website. So that is what I've been working on. And now I'm going to hand it over to Jean for our Q&A portion.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you can all see me. I apologize for being a little bit slow in hitting all the right buttons, but welcome everyone. And I'm really glad that so many of you have joined us. This is just an incredible amount of work that our staff, Corinne, and our interns have been working on. And it's just, there's just an unbelievable amount of content that we are now able to make accessible to our community, to our researchers. And it's just a reflection of actually the work of Linda Benz, our board member, who unfortunately can't join us tonight, but she's really been overseeing a lot of this process of coordinating the work of our archives. As you may know, Linda Benz is an archaeologist by background, but she has been really working to coordinate grants and the work into the archives. Because of the relationships, as Corinne and others have indicated, we now have these relationships with entities like the Natural History Museum, with the Huntington USC Institute for California in the West, and with the LA County Arboretum, because we're basically sharing a lot of this information, this incredible history that we have here. So I am actually looking to see where our questions are. The chat is open, but before I do that, I also want to mention that there are so many friends and big brothers, I call them, that I see online in the audience. If this were an in-person meeting, we'd have a chance to chat informally and say hello and really enjoy the fellowship of each other. But as it is, we're seeing many friends from not only locally, but across the nation. I see Grace from New Jersey, Carrie from Seattle, who has Kwan family roots in LA, Tom from Santa Cruz, Kenneth from the Central Valley. No, I'm not Central Valley. I'm sorry, from the Bay Area. Robert Kwan normally drives down from Goleta to join us, and then afterwards we, as a group, go out together to the Phoenix Inn to have a follow-up dinner. I see Judy from UCR, a librarian who, Judy, you'd be really proud to see, what our staff and interns, what Corinne has been doing and coordinating. I see a friend from Texas and board member Angela from Portland. And I know that I'm going to be missing some people, but if you were all in the same room, you know, we'd have a great time and just greeting each other. What I'd like to do is to kind of start going through some of the questions here. And someone asked, can you explain the significance of the Fritz family to the Historical Society? And actually, I can explain that because I actually had a little bit to do with that. The Fritz family built the homes that we occupy as our headquarters. And as many of you know, we bought those properties in 1995 when they came available. There are 2 Victorian cottages that had been built by the Fritz family in 1886 and 1890. We did was negotiate the purchase of the property over time, but we couldn't have done it actually without a little bit of help. And I saw as David was flashing through the images of the World War II veterans, I saw briefly a photo of Wing Mar, and we should really remember that Wing Mar was a charter member of the Historical Society, and he was a person who really helped raise funds for us to pay off the mortgage on the property. So I really want to be sure that you know, while we're able to do all of these things was built by the Fritz family, it was also because of Wing Mar, and also with a lot of support from LP Liang that and a few other major supporters, that we were able to acquire the homes that we occupy at present. So we're really blessed to really have these resources accessible to us. So let me scroll down to another question. And let's see, my grandfather's in the book, and that's special in our family. Very cool to hear more about the project. Well, that's a comment. Any to make the digital collection discoverable on the Digital Public Library of America. Maybe Corinne or any of our interns. Corinne?
Sure, yeah, I could talk a bit about that. At this point, we don't really have any plans to add it to the Digital Public Library. We're really trying to keep everything connected through our own site. So if you notice, both LIBIB and Omeka are connectable through our site. So that's a way that we really want to try to make sure that everything that you want to access from our collections is accessible from any site that you want to visit. So for example, if you are on our website and you see one of our online exhibitions, you want to learn more about the collection, then you can go straight to the Omeka. We really don't want to spread ourselves too thin when it comes to discoverability, because we really want to avoid users being either confused or having some collections available on one site, but not some available on another, which would force them to have to navigate through basically multiple websites to try to find more information about something that they're interested in. So at this point, we're trying to make everything centralized through our own website and be able to look at our collections through there. So I hope that answers your question.
I'm sorry, you know, I guess I lost some audio for a second. And part of the reason why we are able to provide so much more content on the website is because we have a new server and a new setup that Linda Bentz arranged for. We basically hired a consultant contractor to upgrade our systems. We have really fast Wi-Fi at our Historical Society. So we have a fiber optic feed. So now, not that I want everyone to come rushing over to the Historical Society to take advantage of our feed, but of our fast Wi-Fi, but it does work, and it's really great. We also have a brand new digital kiosk, sort of a big screen, floor standing monitor, and which has a touch screen, and you can access all of our archival material that's available. I forgot to mention Stephen Eng, our former board member, who's probably zooming in from either Pennsylvania or Wyoming, wherever he might be, but he, as a digital specialist, would probably appreciate that. Question from Grace in New Jersey asked, were most of the letters translated from traditional Chinese? I will answer that first, but then actually, I can tell you that some of the letters were translated by another Grace, who is able to read traditional Chinese. Ricky, is Grace nearby, and can she come on and maybe make a comment?
Yes.
Don't know if we have your audio.
Hear us?
Yeah, no, I just want, maybe Grace could make a comment about the Lemke letters, and maybe share your thoughts on what you were able to discover.
Sure. The Lemke letter is very touched to my heart, because when I translate them, first of all, they are definitely traditional Chinese. However, because I think those letters are written not necessarily by one person. I think what happened is, back in those days, a lot of people hire someone to write a letter for the family, because most of the family back then that write those letters are like either female they left behind from their husband, or their relatives that all immigrant to America. So those ladies are really not that educated as far as writing skills wise. So a lot of time those letters, I think, written up by many different writer. However, the contents of letters are of course is those the language are written by the translate the thought and the emotional by the family members. That will give me a idea about the hardship and the immigration back in like late 1800 or early 1900. Those immigrants that come from Canton, China, are really having they come to America, try to make a living, try to better their life, and they come here and they do labor work or rancher or gardener or whatever, or the railroad worker. And you can tell a lot of time they borrow money from homes, or they work really hard in America and they send money home. So there's you can relate that at that time for a lot of different immigration, a lot of family that immigrate to the United States. So most of our immigrants have that background, all the family. Right. You can relate that.
And so there are just some incredible stories that we have in our archives. And yeah, we're able to make all of these accessible. We have a great team who's able to interpret, to organize, and to share. And there's a question from Kenneth from the Bay Area, who actually was a junior high classmate of mine. There's another junior high classmate of mine on the line too here, Dean Eng. But anyway, Ken is asking, can you show an example of how artifacts are accessed? Corinne, can you address that?
Sure. So at this point, we're mainly focusing on our photographic and our document-based collections rather than our artifacts. However, we have partnered in the past with USC's Digital Archive to be able to put some of our artifacts up there. If you want, I could post the link into the chat, but that was one of the previous projects that we've done. But we've mainly been focusing on photographs and documents because we've been able to scan them more easily. We feel that with artifacts, we could take two-dimensional photographs of them, but we could also take 3D photographs, which we currently don't have the technology for. but which would be a lot better to get a much fuller idea of what each dimension of the artifact looks like. So I think right now we're focusing mostly on our 2D collections, but hopefully over time we will be able to have the technology to get our artifacts up there too, because they're also incredibly fascinating.
And yeah, but it's also a challenge. You know, we wish we had lots and lots of time and lots of resources, and hopefully Linda will keep writing grant applications, and we're also continue receiving generous donations. You know, it takes time and resource dollars to get some of this done, but you know, we're really doing it well, and I'm really proud of that. A question, I know you're in the process of grouping info into collections and uploading, but do you expect to have anything about or from Chinese workers on the Trans-Pacific Railroad, Transcontinental Railroad? I can sort of answer that a little bit. We really don't have information specifically related to the Transcontinental Railroad. In our oral history program, which we did in 78, 79, 1980, which is both at the UCLA special collections, and for which we also now have a digital copy, thanks to some hard negotiations by Kelly Fong and Linda Bentz and others. But we now actually have a copy of the 170 oral histories that were done back at that time, and some of the interviewees talked a little bit about their family's role, their ancestral family's role in the Transcontinental Railroad. But we don't have anything specific related to the railroad, and not directly anyway. Bogey asked what Corinne and you, all of you interns, have been doing. She asked what measures are being taken to preserve and protect the physical artifacts, like of paper. What conservation measures are being undertaken? Corinne, you want to start off?
Sure. So since we are a very small community archive, there is only so much we can do in terms of physical preservation without the necessary technology like an HVAC system at this point, because it's so costly. But we have been taking a lot of measures, especially this past year. So we actually had a preservation assessment done last year, actually right before I was hired, where we had an assessor basically come in and look at the state of our archives and our collections and our artifacts and how they're looking right now, and give us some recommendations on how we can do better to improve that preservation, just to make sure that nothing is degrading. So we were able to get that assessment done, and based on that, we were able to fulfill some of those recommendations. For example, a couple months ago, we actually bought a data logger to put inside our archive. So we've been using that to log the temperature and the relative humidity within the archive, so that even if we don't have that much control over the temperature and humidity in the building, we can still keep track of it and do our best to monitor the situation and hopefully make any changes within the environment that we would need to better preserve it. And other things like that, like just organizing some of our physical collections too. Simple things like keeping boxes on the floor also do a lot to make sure that our collections are protected from pests and from water damage, things like that. So taking those disaster prevention measurements and doing what we can with the resources that we have available to us.
Well, so I see more questions in the chat, but it's also 8 o'clock, and I know that some of us have bedtime, or we have to go to work in the morning. I would like to really thank all of our speakers tonight for the diligent work that they've been doing, and also for their presentations. They've done a great job, and we should give a big hand to all of the young people who have been really actually leading us, helping us to get organized. We're incredibly proud of them. And, when I see the work of what other historical societies are trying to do, I recognize that we are actually doing it and we're getting things done. All you have to do is just go onto our website and, every day, every week, every month, there is more content, more and more content that's being uploaded. So we're really proud of what Corinne and her crew have been doing. Thank you, David. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Anne, for your terrific work. I need to really share with you and maybe have some closing comments. We have upcoming programs that we don't want you to forget about. The first Wednesday of every month for April and May. In April, we're going to hear from Dr. Su-Fan Chung, retired professor from University of Nevada at Las Vegas. Because April is normally Qingming month, the Chinese Memorial Day, we might say, she's going to speak a little bit about some of the rituals that come with Qingming. The annual grave sweeping event. And we have in the past participated and actually organized a Qingming event at Evergreen Cemetery in Boyle Heights. So we'll hear a little bit about some of the traditions that Su-Fan has been researching and actually sharing, because she's written a book about the various rituals around Qingming. I should not neglect, by the way, to mention that this year there will not be a Qingming event at Evergreen organized by Chinese Historical Society. No, not until COVID conditions, until the situation is a little bit better. But we have in the past had many events by Gilbert Hom and others who have led us out there, and by Gordon too, by the way, because we always look forward to having a little turkey joke over at the Qingming event. But in May, we're going to be hearing from Professor Gordon Chang from Stanford University. He will be speaking about anti-Asian violence and in relation to US-China relations. Historically, we all are aware of the impact of policies like the Chinese Exclusion Act, which was in place for 61 years, and many other legal obstacles for Chinese, not only immigrants, but for Chinese who are already here, who may have been born or are natives. So, Professor Chang will have a lot of comment about that. He's written a book about China and US relations, and he's a member of the Committee of 100. It should be a really interesting program. I should also mention upcoming events for the Historical Society. This July, we're going to be going to Yosemite again. Many of us have been joining in the annual pilgrimage to Sing Peak and Yosemite. The dates are July 29th, 30th, and 31st for the pilgrimage in Yosemite. But then a few of the people who are in good health and good physical condition who want to go backpacking can go join Jack Shu, our leader, and Ranger Yan Yan Chan on a trek up to Sing Peak at 10,552 feet. Sing Peak was named after, of course, Tai Sing, the legendary backcountry cook who really was the person who helped with the Mather Mountain Party of 1915, and that event led to the formation of the National Park Service in 1916. So that's why we go to Yosemite, because of the importance of Chinese in the mountains who built trails, built roadways, cooked for the hotels like the Wawona Hotel, who did the laundry for the hotels. And because last October we did have the opportunity to join in the ribbon cutting for the Chinese laundry building and the Chinese laundry exhibit that opened at that time. We're going to go see the expanded and improved laundry exhibit that were augmented exhibit this year. So if you are interested, and I see several people in our audience who have previously sent emails to us with questions about the itinerary for, and also for accommodations for our Sing Peak Yosemite pilgrimage, please send your questions to info@chssc.org. Some of you I already have, like Betty and others. So I'll be sending information to you directly. So we're going to have a great time out there. There are cabins already reserved, but we may need to reserve additional cabins for the 3 nights, 3 days in Yosemite. Unless there are any other questions, well, no, I think I've already shut off the chat, but we're glad that all of you have joined us. We really appreciate your interest in Chinese American history. It's incredibly rich and deep, and we're learning more and more about it because of the work of our archival staff, our archival team. And so we're really proud of what they've done, and we're really looking forward to more. We look forward to your joining us in our explorations and in our journeys into our rich Chinese American history. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.